516 BC. The construction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem is completed. 515 BC, Euphronios makes the death of Sarpedon. 514 BC, King Helu of Wu ascends to the throne of Wuai China. 513 BC, Western India became the Persian satrapy of Hindush. 512 BC, Sun Tzu started serving as the general and military strategist in the Wu army. 510 BC, the fall of the Roman kingdom and the beginning of the Roman Republic. 509 BC, the overthrow of Roman monarchy. September 13, 509 BC, the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus on Rome's Capitoline Hill is dedicated. 508 BC, the war between Rome and Clusium and Aricia. 507 BC, Cleisthenes takes power and increases democracy. 506 BC, the Battle of Boju. 505 BC, the war between Rome and the Sabines. 504 BC, the war between Rome and the Sabines ended. 503 BC, the Latin towers of Pomatia and Cora revolt against Rome. 502 BC, Rome suppresses the Pometian revolt. December 4, 502 BC, the solar eclipse darkens Egypt. 501 BC, Rome creates the office of dictator. 500 BC, Yayoi period starts in Japan. 499 BC, Aristagoras seeks help with the revolt against the Persians. 498 BC, Alexander I succeeds Amyntas I as king of Macedonia. 497 BC, Artabi ascends the rebellion in Cyprus. 496 BC, Hipparchus wins the archonship of Athens. 495 BC, the Roman tribes increases to 21. 494 BC, the Romans burn down the temple of Apollo at Didyma. 493 BC, the secession of the plebs concludes. 492 BC, the war with the Volsci is averted. 491 BC, Hippocrates loses his life in a battle against the Siculi. 490 BC, Darius I sends an expedition to attack the Athenians and the Eretrians. September 12, 490 BC, the Battle of Marathon took place as an Persian army of more than 20,000 men. 489 BC, Miltiades leads a naval expedition to pay off for private score. 488 BC, Theron became tyrant of Acragas in Sicily. 487 BC, Aegina and Athens go to war. 486 BC, Egypt revolts against the Persian rule. 485 BC, Darius I died and succeeded by Xerxes I. 484 BC, Xanthippus is ostracized. 483 BC, Chilo sells their people into slavery and bringing their oligarchs to Syracuse. 482 BC, the continuation of hostilities with the Aequi and Veli. 481 BC, the spring and autumn period ends in China. 480 BC, the Greek Congress decides to send force of 10,000 Greeks. May of 480 BC, King Xerxes I marches from Sardis to Thrace and Macedonia. August of 480 BC, the Persians achieve a naval victory over the Greeks. August 11, 480 BC, the Battle of Thermopylae ends. September 21, 480 BC, the Persians sack Athens. September 22, 480 BC, the Battle of Salamis brings victory to the Greeks. 479 BC, Mardonius attacks Athens. August 27, 479 BC, Potidaea is struck by the Tsunami. 478 BC, the Temple of Confucius is established in Kfu. 477 BC, the Roman forces in a stronghold on the Cremera River are defeated. 476 BC, Simon of Athens increases his power. 475 BC, the first eruption of Mount Etna. 474 BC, Hiero build Castello Aragonese. 473 BC, the Hikawa Shrine is established in Saitama, Japan. 472 BC, the Persians is produced by Aeschylus. 471 BC, the colony of Pixunt is founded. 470 BC, the construction of the Temple of Zeus begins. 469 BC, Themistocles makes his way across the Aegean to Magnesia, which is the city named before Magnesium. 468 BC, Antium is captured by the Roman forces. 467 BC, first sighting of Halley's comet. 466 BC, Thrasybulus is driven out of Syracuse, Sicily. 465 BC, Pylos is built. 464 BC, an Spartan earthquake occurs leading to a large loss of life. 463 BC, Phasos falls to the Athenians. 462 BC, Anaxagoras moves to Athens. 461 BC, Ephialtes is murdered by Aristodicus of Tanagra. 460 BC, the construction of the ceremonial complex of Apollodorus is completed. 459 BC, the Sicilian town on F Morgantina is destroyed by Ducetius. 458 BC, Pleistoanax succeeds Pleistarchus as king of Sparta. 457 BC, Athens comes into conflict with Corinth. 456 BC, the Temple of Zeus is finished. 455 BC, Athens send 100 ships around the Peloponnesus. 454 BC, Persian rule of Egypt is restored. 453 BC, Pericles bestows generous wages on all Athens citizens. 451 BC, an Athenian law sponsored by Pericles is passed. 450 BC, Athenian general Cimon sails to Cyprus with 200 triremes of the Delian League. 449 BC, the construction begins on the Temple of Hephaestus. 448 BC, the Athenians begin constructing the middle component of the long walls. 447 BC, Achaeus of Eretria produces his first play. 446 BC, Ducetius returns from exile in Corinth to Sicily. 445 BC, Lex Canula removes the ban on intermarriage of the Roman classes. 444 BC, Nehemiah is given permission by Artaxerxes to return to Jerusalem in order to rebuild parts of it. 443 BC, no consuls are elected in Rome, but rather military tribunes with consular power are appointed in their stead. 442 BC, the Athenian citizens ostracize Thucydides for 10 years and Pericles is unchallenged in Athenian politics. 441 BC, Euripides wins his first victory in a dramatic festival, and Sophocles writes Antigone. 440 BC, Samos had a quarrel with Miletus and appeals to Athens for assistance, but Pericles decides in favor of Miletus, so Samos revolts. 439 BC, during the severe famine in Rome, he buys up a large store of grain and sells it at a low price to the people of Rome, the first time this had been done in Rome. 438 BC, the Parthenon on the Acropolis at Athens is completed by Ictinus and Callicrates. 437 BC, Nicicles starts to build Propyleo in Acropolis at Athens. 436 BC, the large Athenian colony is founded at Amphipolis. 435 BC, a dispute rises between Epidamnus oligarchs and the democratic forces in the Greek colony. 434 BC, Anaxagoras was arrested by Pericles' political opponents on a charge of contravening the established dogmas of the Athenian religion. 433, Athens intervenes in the dispute between Corinth and Corcyra. 432 BC, the Peloponnesian War starts, causing their work to be cancelled. 431 BC, Athens enters into an alliance with King Sitorchus of Thrace. 430 BC, the plague has wiped out of over 30,000 citizens, sailors, soldiers, and Pericles' 2 sons. 429 BC, the Athenians destroys the Cretan city of Kydonia. 428 BC, Sophocles writes Oedipus Rex. 427 BC, quaestorship is opened to the plebs. 426 BC, Ambracia invades Acarnania. 425 BC, Artaxerxes I has succeeded Xerxes II. 424 BC, Xerxes II rules for 45 days until he was killed. 423 BC, Athens sends reinforcements under the Nicias who retakes Mende. 422 BC, Cleon ends the truce between Athens and Sparta after he resolves to rescue the town of Macedonia. 421 BC, Alcibiades engineers an anti-Spartan alliance between Athens and the Democrates of Argos, Mantinea and Elis. 420 BC, Euripides performed the suppliant women,